Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. We have an Hedera hash graph video for you guys today, HBAR, HBAR on the exchange. It's one of my favorite projects to always talk about and certainly get involved with as well. I've been holding my portfolio since around 2020 or maybe even late 2019, and it's been pretty much been accumulated ever since. For those that have followed the channel for some time, they will know that I've done many introduction videos to Hedera and been following them as much as possible. Last video I did on these guys was when we did the announcement, I think a few months ago, where they joined the UK Crypto Asset Business Council. As you see, is one of the recent videos that I've done. Apologies, as I try to get more videos out as and when I can, subject to time. But let's talk Hedera, guys. So again, for those that have been following the channel, I'm more excited about Hedera over many other projects, as I am with a couple of others, of course, that supply their services using what they call DAG protocol. So this is direct acyclic graph. This is very much where we look at how the blockchain technology can really thrive. This is how we talk about the transactions per second going into the hundreds of thousands. But more importantly, understanding that those transfers per second or transactions per second aren't always just related to finance. But we have a topic here in front of us right now that is related to finance. But just to be clear, that there is a multitude of opportunities, services, solutions that Hedera and other DAG protocol projects can offer that others simply cannot. So if you want a bit more detail about that, go and check out the previous videos I've done on that. I'll leave a link to them at the end of this video, and particularly an introduction to DAG or direct acyclic graph. Get a bit of a better understanding as to what I mean by this. But for now, of course, we see in front of us Algorand, which is of course another project that we follow and talk about quite often, and certainly something, again, I have been accumulating over the last couple of years. I'm a bit late to the party with Algorand, actually, to be honest. I think about a year and a half, 2 years ago I started, and obviously with these lower price points, it's been a great opportunity to get some DCA opportunities and some opportunities for accumulation in general. But Algorand and Hedera have recently both been tested by Sweden's central bank for retail CBDC solutions. Now, whether we like the narrative or the initiatives of central bank digital currencies or not is kind of beside the point. It's coming whether we like it or not. It is advancing faster than we could possibly imagine. As those that know, I do have good associations with the Digital Pound Foundation here in the UK, and I do attend the events quite often. Very obviously fortunate to be able to attend those. Mixed opinions in the audience whenever I go. Certainly battling probably a lot of things that you think about and I think about all the time, about the potential control mechanisms that could come from this, certainly around individuals' finances, and even maybe towards that aspiration of some of the agendas that are out there to try and control where we go. How do we do this or not do this? And the list goes on. There are some advantageous aspects of CBDCs if it goes in a good direction to potentially not necessarily eliminate, but certainly reduce or help keep inflation and interest rates more stable in the future with utilization of things like artificial intelligence, the algorithmic data of supply, demand, money, etc. But we know that over 130 countries, as it says right in front of us right now, over 130 countries to date have explored the possibility of rolling out a CBDC. Now, some argue that there are some live ones, for example, the digital yuan in China, arguably the Russia ruble, I think it is, has been tested for some time as well. And this is why you've got the BRICS nations coming together at this moment in time to probably try and battle that dollar de-dollarization aspect of the West more and more as this time flies by. And BRICS, I don't know how many countries it's involved now. There's obviously the immediate 5 or so, with Brazil, India, for example, China, Russia. Now I think the Saudi Arabia, and a load of other countries are joining this. So it's going to be really interesting. I still think Trump might get that election in whenever that might be, but this year. But there's already chess pieces in play, especially here in the UK now. Starmer's involved. You're going to see that Agenda 30 program absolutely ramp up significantly. I'm talking about digital identities, CBDCs, all the things that Sunak here put into place. Like, people think that he didn't do much at all, but actually it's the reasons why these prime ministers are put in from the World Economic Forum to bring in these kind of objectives of change, transformation of the fourth industrial revolution, Internet of Things, AI, 5G to 6G. CBDCs is a part of that, guys. So we have to understand it more. I've done many videos on CBDCs for those in the crypto sphere for some time, or even maybe more recently will probably have heard of that abbreviation, CBDC in general, central bank digital currency. But, I would just say do your own research for sure. By all means, watch the videos that I do. But equally, it's always good to have an open mind and structure research from multiple sources. And generally speaking, they will come to very similar conclusions, to be honest. And Sweden is no different with the e-Krona testing and piloting this. It's not really new, the CBDC project at all. In some instances where you've got the BIS, which is very much the institution worldwide for how finance works, basically, which the integration of the remittance system, the RTGS system for however many decades, the SWIFT system, CHAPS, you name it, IBANs, whatever, will all be very much consolidated over these coming years. And the impact of this is quite phenomenal because it will affect pretty much everyone. And every country is developing or trialing a digital wallet now for these digital currencies. Here in the UK, if you remember the videos that I did about a couple of years ago, following the process of the government's selection process of inviting companies, which weren't really listed, to be honest, but we kind of found out, I think it was Kin & Carter or something, that won that contract with the UK and then was conveniently in the space of like 2-3 months purchased by some crazy finance company. Go figure. They probably knew what was happening, what was going on, and took that advancement of the hard work that's already been done, already done for them. And there you go. Go and look that up, by the way, guys, and someone can give me some proper conclusions about it. But I think it's quite suspicious in my opinion, but hey-ho. But Hedera, this is the interesting part from this perspective, is of course, as an investor, if we take away the lack of morals that are towards some of these things that are coming in the near future, and we take those hats off and we look at, okay, if I can't beat it, I don't really want to join it, but can we ride this wave? Can we do something about this? Can we make money off this? And yeah, the answer is absolutely yes. And it's pockets of information, pockets of development like this that makes me excited as an investor and certainly a holder, for example, as I do with Hedera. So we know the power, the capabilities of Hedera. The team is fantastic. I was very fortunate to do AMAs with those guys the beginning of this year when I was doing a bit of work with Paris Blockchain Week. And also, of course, just our following of them over the last few years, we can see that development. But it's really interesting to see, how this development occurs now with the CBDC aspect of it. And I think this is where we kind of understand like the population numbers of each of these countries that are involved, and then you multiplying that by the global aspiration of it all. And then you conclude, well, actually think of how many transactions in a financial perspective are being done per day already, and how that could be completely sped up, but have a system using blockchain, using DAG protocol to increase that number significantly. The economy could arguably grow for sure. The growth mechanism is almost limitless to an extent, but it's still early days. It's still not official. But we love to see, as an investor, as I said, we love to see as an investment perspective, the names being linked to these kind of things. That's ultimately what it's about. And then eventually, and people are always saying to me at the moment, like, irrespective of the market trends and the cycles over the years, it was like, oh, if it's so big, how come the price is so low? Well, the fact of the matter is, guys, the utility is not fully there yet. Yeah, okay, they got projects, they got partners. Yes, they're being utilized to an extent and being developed on, for sure, 100%. But I'm talking about when we lead up to those 2030 goals, 2030 to 2040 and beyond, this is where the real true mechanism of the utility of these tokens really, really occurs. I still anticipate 2025 to be a massive, massive bull run. Maybe it starts towards the end of this year with the US election sign-offs, and then the progression from that, for sure. I think we've seen enough of these lower price points for some time to reflect that we are getting, in some cases, higher lows as we develop the cycles over the last few months. I do think that the interest rates will come down, whether that starts from next month or certainly around that September, October time, for sure, something will give. And we've said that for some time because of the Goldman Sachs trends. But once that kicks in, I guarantee to you, in a sense, that CBDCs will be a hot topic in the media, especially as Labour government here in the UK now has that platform to build on that the Conservatives put in there for the the development of innovation hubs, the blockchain bills, everything. It's not like Labour have clicked their fingers and this happened magically. It's all part of the system. It's all part of the plan, the circus, if you like, the theatre. That these guys are just puppets and there to say yes to everything that the above say and put into place. And we've been talking about it for, 3-4 years on this channel. I've been talking about it since about 2015 when I first heard about the Agenda 30 program. And as I said, over those years, I was resentful, I was angry. And then when I heard about blockchain and crypto and understood from my career perspectives of AI and deep learning, machine learning, all this kind of stuff, telecoms, what the capabilities of blockchain were, I was like, I'm going to turn this into an advantage for me. And it's been a crazy ride, really, in that aspect. When we talk about CBDCs, the other big agenda, of course, is climate change. Now, whether you believe it or don't believe it, the fact of the matter is, like with CBDCs, the narrative is going to be there. It is there already, as is the likes of ESG, which I've talked about numerous times on this channel. I dealt with CSR programs like 10, 12 years ago. It's now evolved into ESG. Companies around the world, including banks, are getting fined for what they call greenwashing fines, which is basically inaccurate or falsified accounts relating to sustainability efforts, or cost of emissions and things like this. And money is being drawn back into the government's pockets, for sure. And banks are no exception by the looks of it at all. But ESG is a phenomenal big project and topic leading up to the Agenda 2030 program of the United Nations. You can read it for yourself. By the way, this page is absolutely huge. If you think that's big, wait till you read the actual document. It's absolutely gigantic, guys. So I highly recommend, I wouldn't say read it in one go. You'll be there for a long time. But digest it over time and you'll start sort of realizing what's actually going on in the world. When we see all this media attention on loads of different things, it starts to make a lot more sense. So looping that back to Hedera's perspective, Deloitte, of course, absolutely huge company, are working now at the association here with Hashgraph Association. So bear in mind, guys, by the way, Hashgraph or Hedera is indeed contributed to by a number of corporate entities, likes of Google, for example, who essentially are the committee, the organization committee behind Hedera. So take it how you want with a pinch of salt or whatever, but just bear in mind that it's not just Hedera. If you open up the umbrella of Hedera, you will think, all these companies are working with these now new companies to work on things like ESG models and the likes of CBDCs. So we're not just talking about a blockchain company here, guys. We're talking about a multitude of companies that are on the committee of Hedera, operating for or with to implement these solutions. So again, dot connecting, thinking about it logically, you can see why blockchain is really emphasizing its fact in all these narratives and all these areas, because they have the ability for transparency, as it says here, transparency, security, immutability, you name it, it's on there, right? So when we look at things like the ability of blockchain in an ESG perspective, you've of course got the transparency aspects when we talk about ESG fines and things like that. And for us as consumers as well, look at that diesel, they call it the Dieselgate. I don't know if it's in other countries or not, but in the UK, cars from like 2014 to recently, where you supplied a car or provided a car that was showing fake emissions, and then you could claim money back from excess whatever. as part of that situation. You've got the traceability aspect. Where is my energy coming from? Where's my fuel coming from? The traceability of me as an individual moving forward, which could potentially be integrated with CBDCs and social scoring, emission scoring, etc. That's really important, essentially, from the narrative of the environmental impact kind of assessment aspect, ensuring like materials are sourced sustainably, whatever it might be, can be pulled into that as well. Accountability, of course, is a big factor of that. Efficiency, we know that blockchain is very efficient from its processing perspective, its economic power, its sustainable power, absolutely ticks those boxes there. The inclusivity aspects and the data integrity, like the verification, the processing aspect of blockchain is extremely important. And Hedera is one of those that incorporates those mechanisms, those elements, right? So from the ESG tracking perspective, we talked about all those different kind of levers, for a better word, of how we can leverage blockchain. It essentially can build that trust mechanism and potentially improve the ethical side of it and improve sustainability elsewhere. Whether you believe the climate change narrative or not, the sustainability aspect, I think, is a good moral principle for sure. But look at this. This partnership with Deloitte for his recent announcement by Hashgraph Association to launch a $50 million sustainability venture studio, which aims at empowering sustainable projects on Hedera Guardian as the balance sheet of the planet that enables fair carbon markets. Now, we talk about Energy Web as one of our other favorite projects. I've said this for years now, to concentrate on these kind of projects and services and companies, because these modules of ESG, CBDCs will become phenomenal topics as years go by. And as we lead closer to 2030, they become more and more apparent and more of a stronger narrative. Sorry if I'm boring you guys, but I'm just trying to emphasize the open-mindedness to understand the dot connection aspect here, that as an investor, you should research these elements as to why am I investing in this project now? Why am I investing in the sense to hold it in the long term? Am I looking for an overnight millionaire snap? Go and get some meme coins, guys. Like, if you want to ride that and you're good at that, absolutely. I am pretty useless at most of that. I've always openly admitted that. I've done trading for many years. I have done my courses. I've got diplomas in blockchain, etc., etc. But I don't have the time management to do it. And I'm more interested in the long-term plays of companies like this because of what's coming. It's like Nvidia. If you knew Nvidia way back at the beginning, you understood the trend mechanism. I'm sure you dabbled in and out, made profits, sold it off, bought back in, I'm sure, like I do with most of my projects, but I don't do it obviously daily. But what I would say here is that there's an aspiration here as an investor to really think logically in your minds, like, what is coming, what is actually happening in the world, and what is going to be happening in the world, and then look at the narratives, the agendas that the government's putting in, or World Economic Forum, whatever you want to look at. Just look at the trend and the pattern, or the things that they're talking about, and then find the things that can be associated with. It's why I'm interested in hydrogen. It's why I'm interested in graphene. It's why I'm interested in silicon and synthetics, because we know for a fact that biohumans are around the corner. Graphene will go into semiconductors to improve the battery life, as will synthetics and silicon into semiconductors. There's all these things that you can just start matching up. So that's why I would love people out there to think about. But on that note, guys, we talk about the price points and the movements of Hedera as an investor in these markets. Hedera has come back down substantially since its previous all-time high way back here in September 2021. And in fact, about an 88% drop still in play right now. So we did have that trace up, if you remember, back in April, all the way up to 18-20 cents. People were like, oh, here we go, we're in the bull run. I was like, we are not in the bull run. We're in a cycle of a bull run for sure, but we're not in the bull run. So as you can see, it's played out in the way that we thought it would. We've got to be patient and not go emotional and start chasing money, because it will be eventually coming back down, because we need to retest the lower areas. We can look at that in very clear format here now. If we zoom completely out, we look back at these 2020 price points. This is very much where it's been playing around. But equally 1, 2, potentially 3, 4, and arguably 5, 6 points is not enough to declare a sign off of these foundational areas to push upwards further. So we had this low point back here in December 2022, if you remember, and even a bit since then, it hasn't really gigantically moved. We've gone from like 4 cents up again back to 10 cents. It's been up and down since then till this most recent point that we should mention around March, April time, 2024. So we've had that scale up. Some big news came out of this time as well, of course, that we mentioned in the video earlier, and then we traced back down. So in terms of a trend line, we're starting to probably catch up into where we're supposed to be. So if you had a trend line coming across, if you can imagine it in a straight line, we're eventually coming back down to this squeezed in area. So my suggestion or my thought process here is not financial advice, but my opinion, that we are squeezing into this compact area. We could potentially retest at some point this sort of 5 cent mark. I'm not entirely sure if we definitely will, but we certainly came close the other day where I think the lowest was 0.58 cent or 5.8 cents for a better wording, and now we obviously trace back up to the 6.7 cent mark. So there's plenty of opportunity of DCAing in my opinion. For me personally, I do have still the DCAing purchase orders around sort of 6.2 cents, and because of the fib levels, which I haven't moved this since the last video, by the way, guys, so it's very interesting. You can see that when it did come back down, it did hit this lower region. So my next obvious buy point, just purely, no science behind it at all, is the focus on the fib levels here. So 5.1, I would probably personally be going around 5.3 cents just to make sure I grab that higher aspect in case that dip down doesn't come all the way. But that's my next target down. So I'll be DCAing at this current price point of around 6.2 cents when it keeps dipping back down to there, hopefully. And there's arguments like, oh, well, what if it goes up? Well, if it goes up, fine, because I've been DCAing on my way down anyway, getting load at this lower area. Still got some lower opportunities if it does come in, but if it does trace back up, fantastic. We're in a profit opportunity if I decide to take some. But even with this 18 odd cents price uprise, I didn't really do anything with it at all because, well, one, I missed it, and second to that, again, I knew that it was going to be coming back down anyway, and just from a time management perspective at the time, I didn't have it. So if you are traders out there, you'll know a lot more than I do for sure, but you will also acknowledge, probably like I did over these last few months, that we're not finished yet with these lower regions. And that's confirmed really on the performance indicators on the right hand side here, where the only one in green is the 1 year. The rest of them are all in red. The squeeze is on for sure. This 3-month one is quite interesting to me. It's just gone, it's still under the minus 40 negative, so that's kind of positive in the sense that we could be seeing the end of this in the next month or two. And if we think about it, and we do play into the mindset that I've been talking about for a long time now, that potentially the interest rates could switch around in August. I did anticipate that we would see some very interesting action around that September, October time, especially around the election times as well. There's so many mechanisms of opportunity, so many variables out there that can really kickstart this market. So if we get confirmations that these areas of moving forwards, and let's say, just for argument's sake, we're bouncing around that 6 to 9 cent mark in 1 month, 2 months time, I think we've got an absolute rocket opportunity here for leading into 2025. And I think we will see something similar in a higher scale. Got to remember that mass adoption is coming now because we've got more access, easier access to crypto through the likes of MetaMask. We've got people now on PayPal. PayPal haven't switched the mechanism of crypto fully on yet here in the UK. Why? Because the regulations aren't complete. Isn't that convenient that they're going to be doing it around the times that we're talking about? And what do you think will happen? The markets will rise, the interest rates will reduce, everyone gets excited and goes, oh my God, I can make a load of money off crypto here. And for those like me in the last few years in this boring market that we have been accumulating, we will reap the rewards and unfortunately take advantage probably of majority of people jumping in like I did in 2019, thinking that this is just going to keep on going. And taking advantage of those big drops, sell-offs, etc. as they come, as we enter that bull cycle. So that's my thoughts and opinions on Hedera. At the moment, the DCA is good. The 14-day average, or the RSI, is on 34. The RSI on 28 is 37. Great biting points for me personally, not financial advice, as I said, but let us know in the comments below what you are doing with Hedera or HBAR tokens. Long-term holder, short-term holder, you trading regularly? Do you agree or disagree with the points over the next few months coming? Do you think 2025 will be the year, as I do? Thanks for watching this video, guys. We'll see you in the next HBAR update video. Take care. Bye-bye.